agenda items number 4, 5, and 6. Item number 4 is to consider authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement for continued participation in Fort Worth Environmental Collection Center. Item number 5 is to consider award bid 913 for asphalt street repairs. And item number 6 is to consider the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August the 27th and the special call meeting of September the 3rd. Ms. Ketchum.
Mayor, on item 4, this request is for the authorization to continue participation in Fort Worth Environmental Collection Center Household Hazardous Waste Program. The city has participated in this program since 1997. It provides year-round access for Euless residents to the Environmental Collection Center that's located at 6400 Bridge Street in Fort Worth. And in addition to that, the agreement provides access to the Craig Cruiser mobile unit for mobile collection events during the year. And that there is no change in the fee for the upcoming year. Item 5 is asking for your award of bid number 009-13 for the repair of asphalt streets to reliable paving. The purchasing department requested competitive sealed bids for the contracting of asphalt street repairs, and staff is requesting awarding this bid to the low bidder, which is Reliable Paving. And the estimated expenditure is $115,000, but it's based on actual quantities, and we will only spend based on the amount used. And then, of course, the last item is just the minutes.
Thank you. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor, I move approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Councilperson Martin and seconded by Councilperson Stoniford to approve the consent agenda items number 4, 5, and 6. Is there further discussion from the council? If not, cast your votes.
Mayor, cast your vote.
I did. But it still keeps blinking. And it stopped. The consent agenda is approved. Item number 7. I believe we're going to have an amendment before we go into saying that we're holding a public hearing. We're going to make a motion on this one, Mr. Stoniford.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we send this item back through the process due to a clerical error in the description and the noticing. Send it back, ask staff to take it back through planning and zoning, and then
Public hearing.
assuming going through planning and zoning back to council here at the next meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second, council?
Second.
All right, motion is made by Mr. Stoniford, seconded by Ms. Martin, that we send this back to planning and zoning. Is there further discussion, council? If not, cast your votes. That has been approved, and it will go back to planning and zoning and through all of the things and back to the city council by the first meeting and the second meeting in October. Are we going to make it the first one? I thought PNC made the first and you made the second.
We would hope to take this back to the Planning and Zoning Commission on October the 1st. That's their first meeting, and then back to the council. We'll double notify, bring it back to council on October the 8th.
Okay.
This will be your first council. For the audience, there is one word incorrect in that, and it's one word only. This is a tract that is actually to the east of Gateway Boulevard, and the agenda says to the west. So it's that one little simple fact. It's a great project, and please don't let this reflect poorly on the project, because it is simply that one little error.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. And the motion has been made and seconded, so we've finished that project. Item number 8. Did we vote on that one? Okay, so cast your votes on that one. All right, the motion is approved, and that will go back to P&Z. Item number 8 is to hold a public hearing of specific use permit 1218, and then consider the first and final reading of ordinance number 2008. This is a request for a specific use permit in the West Park Professional Center addition, and Mr. Collins will explain this.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
The applicant is Verizon Wireless, and they are represented this evening by Mason Griffin, who will join me at the podium later to give you a description regarding the technical basis for the location of the cell tower and its relationship to the coverage that it could provide for Verizon Wireless customers in the southern portion of our city. The location of the proposed cell tower would be in the 200 block of Doc McGinnis. Airport Freeway, you can see from the graphic, is to the north, running east-west. Doc McGinnis is the thoroughfare that runs north-south to the west of the location. The property is zoned C2 and is surrounded by a combination of developed C2 commercial properties and undeveloped commercial properties, primarily to the south. This is a particular graphic that reflects the specific location identified by the red dot where the cell tower would be located specifically, and it would be surrounded as a 50 by 50 enclosure with masonry screening and surrounding landscaping. Let me provide you with a bit of background. Because of the desired location that has been proposed by the applicant and is being recommended for your approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was first necessary to go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment for 2 variances. One variance dealt with its proximity to 2 other cell phone towers. By ordinance, if you are within 5,000 feet, you have to establish the reasons why you can't locate on a cell tower within that distance. In this particular instance, one of the cell towers is no longer in service and is not authorized through any licensing to operate as a cell tower. The cell tower that is to the north of Airport Freeway, north of this proposed location, would not provide, if they were to co-locate on that tower, the coverage that you will hear described by Mr. Griffin later, to provide the coverage in the south for Verizon Wireless customers in the southern area. The second variance that was requested deals with the height of the proposed cell tower in relationship to other existing structures. By ordinance, the telecommunications tower must be a minimum of 200 feet or a 3-to-1 distance away from an existing structure, whichever is greater. The proposed height of the cell tower is 110 feet. I got that right this time. Is 110 feet, which places it 230 feet away from the closest structure, which would be the Dixie House restaurant, which is depicted and shaded in the tan area on the exhibit. With the approval of the owners of that business, they went before ZBA seeking a variance. The explanation that was provided by the applicant about why they wanted to locate the cell tower there as opposed to farther to the south. Immediately to the south of the proposed location is a drainage swale. In order to locate that farther to the south, it was the opinion of the applicant, and staff agreed, that would place that cell tower kind of right in the middle of that undeveloped portion and would really impact the future development potential of that. So coupled with the drainage swale, the support from the owner of the Dixie House restaurant, the Zoning Board of Adjustment agreed with granting those variances. So it went before the Planning and Zoning Commission, who is recommending approval of this application. Now, the other technical requirements that are established by ordinance have all been met. Let me highlight a couple of those. By ordinance, the cell tower must be monopole in design, and all of the equipment associated with that must be internal to the structure or must be placed on the ground level and surrounded by adequate screening. It meets all of those technical qualifications. Let me highlight one other. The cell phone tower must be designed to accommodate 2 additional cell phone providers. They, with Verizon being the owner of this and coming on the tower first, they'll locate at the top, but you'll see depicted on this graphic that there are 2 other areas that additional cell phone tower providers could locate. And again, by ordinance, the design is that all of the equipment antenna is internal to the structure and would not be visible. Mayor, this is a graphic that I thought if you would allow Mr. Griffin to come forward and give a technical explanation of the coverage that would be provided by the location of the cell tower, he's available to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mason Griffin, and I reside at 6423 Tulip Lane in Dallas. And I am here representing Verizon Wireless, and I can hopefully shed some light on these blobs that you see before you. What these represent here is on the left a coverage map showing the existing coverage that Verizon Wireless enjoys within the community. And on the right is a coverage map showing what the coverage would look like if this tower were constructed and turned on. The blobs have distinct meanings that the easiest way to explain them is the green blobs represent existing towers within Verizon Wireless's network. Green coverage would represent coverage within a commercial building. We all know that in certain locations, whether it's in our office or in a store, your phone won't work and you've got to go either near a window or something like that for it to work. In those locations, their phone is going to work within a commercial building. In the red, the coverage is eroded a bit, and now it likely won't work in a commercial building, but will work in a residence. The blue coloration you see means that it probably is not working often in your residence, and you might have to go outside or near a certain spot in your home for your phone to work. Again, we've all experienced that. And then white indicates the worst possible coverage that you probably can't even get a call when you're in your car. You have to be outside your car if your phone works at all. The green coverage, the map on the right then indicates what the coverage would look like if this tower were approved. This also indicates what Mr. Collins explained earlier, that the tower option that is to the north of Airport Freeway would likely address the coverage problems to the north, but would leave a coverage gap in the area to the south of the proposed tower. That area is heavily residential, and the goal with this project from the start was to minimize the visual impact for the residential neighborhoods, move the tower as close as we could to Airport Freeway, and still address the coverage need. I hope that explains it, and I'm glad to answer any questions that the council or any members of the community might have.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. We might call you back up.
Thank you.
This time I'll call on Mr. Olson, our city attorney, and he's going to address one fact of this.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to address with the council and citizens one issue that has come up at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting regarding the cell tower location. Cell towers are one of those issues that in zoning we sometimes run into where the state government or the federal government has taken action to limit what we can and can't do. And in this case, the federal government has determined that there's a very important necessity to make sure that there's adequate telecommunications coverage throughout the country, and they have adopted regulations that limit what cities and other local governmental entities can do with regard to the location of cell phone towers. The actual location from a zoning perspective of a cell phone tower is left to the discretion of the city council. You have the right to determine whether it's an appropriate location and whether or not it adversely affects surrounding properties within certain guidelines set forth by the statute or by the federal regulations. But one area that we are preempted under is to be able to regulate cell phone towers on account of the possible adverse health effects that they might cause. There's a concern that some people have raised whether or not it's documented about the possibility of adverse health effects from these towers, and we are limited in being able to use that as a basis for the determination of whether or not a location is appropriate. Other issues, if you've got questions about, I can guide you on, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that there are limitations on what the city council has the ability to look at in determining the appropriateness of the location of the cell phone tower. And because that issue had been raised by at least one person at the Planning and Zoning Commission, I thought it would be good to address that.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. We're in a public hearing now, and I'll ask, do we have any proponents for this cell tower? If not, do we have any opponents that would like to speak? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and ask council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I move approval.
Thank you. Mayor, I'll second. Thank you. The motion is made by Councilperson Bynum and seconded by Councilperson Allenfeld. Is there further discussion within the council members?
I would like to make a couple of comments, Mayor, if you don't mind.
All right.
And just let citizens know, we have a couple of these monopoles already in our city with no ill effects to that area. They don't look bad. We have one right here off Midway, just north of the City Hall complex. We have another one just down on Pipeline, just east of Main Street. So if you're curious to see what they look like, you can go by and look at those. They're not obtrusive, so that's the reason I make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Are there further comments? If not, then cast your votes. The ordinance number 2008 has been approved. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Griffith. Item number 9 is to consider the first and final reading of ordinance number 2007, adopting the ad valorem tax rate for 2013. What's your pleasure, Council?
Mayor, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 47 cents, which is effectively a 2.38% increase in the tax rate.
Thank you, Mr. Hogg. Mayor Pro Tem Hogg, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, the motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Hogg to approve the ad valorem tax rate for 2013 and seconded by Councilperson Stenifer. Council, do you have any further questions or concerns?
One comment, Mayor. Just want to remind the citizens that this 47 rate has been the same rate we've had for the previous 5 years.
10 years. 10 years.
47 cents
What's that?
since 2008, Mayor. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I just want to remind everyone that we're not increasing the property tax rate. The reason there's an increase is just due to the property values. So we increase.
Thank you. Other questions or concerns?
Well, I might say that this is the way I had to word the motion due to the state law.
Thank you, Mr. Hogg. If there are no further questions, then cast your votes. Ordinance number 2007 has been approved. Item number 10 is to consider the first and final reading of ordinance number 2006, adopting the tax roll for 2013. What's your pleasure, Council?
Move approval.
Second. Thank you. The motion is made by Councilperson Bynum and seconded by Councilperson Martin to approve ordinance number 2006. Is there further comment from the council? If not, cast your votes. Thank you. Ordinance number 2006 has been approved. That's the end of that, and aren't we glad the budget session is over with now and everybody can relax a little bit. Thank you to the staff for doing such a magnificent job of putting this together, and thank you for the city council for going through all the hearings and understanding it and voting it for our citizens. At this time, we're in the public comment section. If anyone would like to come forward and speak. If not, do we have a report from our city attorney? Thank you. Do we have a report from our city manager? A report from any of our council members? If not, the meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for coming.
Like that one.